Summary of Sonnet 19, When I Consider How My Light Is Spent by John Milton. John Milton's Sonnet 19, When I Consider How My Light Is Spent is a deeply reflective and personal poem, written after Milton had gone blind. It addresses the poet's concern about his inability to use his talents to serve God due to his physical condition, while also expressing his struggle with faith and patience. The poem begins with the speaker contemplating the loss of his sight, light, before reaching middle age, in a world that seems vast and dark. This blindness is particularly troubling because it feels like it has rendered his talents useless. Milton refers to the parable of the talents in the Bible, where hiding a God-given talent is considered a grave mistake. Here, the speaker laments that his own talent, which could serve God, is lodged within him but now lies dormant due to his blindness. He fears divine reprimand for not using his gift. The idea that God might still expect him to work despite his blindness is a source of inner conflict. The speaker's questioning culminates in the line, "Doth God exact day labor, light denied?" asking whether God requires labor from someone who is now deprived of sight. But before this complaint can fully take shape, patience interjects and responds with wisdom. It tells the speaker that God does not need man's work or the gifts he is given. Instead, those who bear his will and endure their burdens with humility are serving God best. God's state is described as kingly, implying that he has countless beings at his command to perform tasks across the world. The sonnet concludes with the famous line, "They also serve who only stand and wait," which signifies that passive submission to God's will, through patience and acceptance, is as valuable as active service. In terms of structure, this is a Petrarchan sonnet, consisting of 14 lines divided into an octave, the first 8 lines, and a sestet, the final 6 lines. The rhyme scheme is a bababa in the octave and decti in the sestet, following the traditional Petrarchan form. This division reflects the shift in the speaker's thought. The octave focuses on his despair over his blindness and perceived uselessness, while the sestet offers the resolution through patience and understanding. The rhythm is iambic pentameter, the most common meter in English poetry, where each line consists of 5 pairs of alternating unstressed and stressed syllables, d-d-u-m, 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 d-d-u-m. This steady meter gives the poem a sense of control, even as it grapples with inner turmoil. The measured rhythm reflects the tension between Milton's human frustration and the higher, divine patience that ultimately prevails. The major theme of the sonnet revolves around faith, patience, and the nature of divine service. It explores the speaker's feelings of inadequacy due to his blindness, but also introduces the idea that God's expectations do not align with human concerns about productivity or ability. Instead, Milton highlights the importance of spiritual submission and the idea that those who suffer in patience are as worthy as those who actively serve. This theme reflects Milton's personal struggle with his blindness and his continued desire to contribute to God's purpose despite his limitations. Overall, Sonnet 19 presents a profound meditation on human limitations, divine will, and the nature of service, resonating with themes of faith and endurance.
Line-by-line explanation of Sonnet 19, When I Consider How My Light Is Spent by John Milton.
Line 1, When I consider how my light is spent. The speaker begins by reflecting on his light, which symbolizes his eyesight. This line introduces the speaker's personal tragedy, his blindness. Spent refers to the fact that his vision has been used up or is now gone. The speaker contemplates how this loss of sight affects his ability to function and contribute meaningfully, leading to a broader existential consideration of his place in the world and his purpose. Line 2, Ere half my days, in this dark world and wide. Here, Milton points out that his blindness came upon him before he reached the middle of his life. The phrase ere half my days suggests that he was struck by blindness at a relatively young age. The world, once filled with light and potential, has now become a dark and intimidating place for him. The word wide indicates that although the world remains vast and full of possibilities, it now feels inaccessible to the blind speaker. Line 3, And that one talent which is death to hide. In this line, Milton refers to his poetic ability as a talent, alluding to the biblical parable of the talents in Matthew 25, where failing to use a God-given gift was likened to spiritual death. Milton believes that his talent for writing was given to him for a purpose, and hiding or failing to use it due to his blindness would be equivalent to denying that purpose, bringing him closer to spiritual death. Line 4, lodged with me useless, though my soul more bent. Milton feels that his poetic talent is now lodged or trapped within him, rendered useless by his blindness. However, despite his physical limitations, his soul is even more inclined, bent, to serve God. This line reflects the tension between his physical incapacity and his unwavering desire to fulfill his divine duty. His soul is willing, but his body seems unable to cooperate. Line 5, to serve there with my Maker, and present. In this line, the speaker expresses his deep desire to serve God, whom he calls his Maker, using his poetic talent. His intention is to present a record of his work, a true account, to God as evidence that he has been a faithful and diligent servant. This reflects Milton's sense of responsibility to use his gifts in a way that honors God. Line 6, my true account, lest he returning chide. The speaker fears that when God returns to judge him, he may chide or scold him for not making full use of the talent he was given. This line alludes again to the biblical parable of the talents, where the servant who hid his talent out of fear was punished. Milton fears that he, too, might be reproached for not fulfilling his duty due to his blindness. Line 7, doth God exact day labor, light denied? Milton asks a fundamental question. Does God still expect him to perform the same day labor, work, now that his sight, has been denied? This rhetorical question expresses the speaker's internal struggle and doubt about how he can serve God in his current state. The question arises from the belief that his blindness might hinder him from contributing in the way he once could. Line 8, I fondly ask. But patience, to prevent. The speaker acknowledges that he fondly, foolishly, asks this question, realizing that it comes from a place of human frustration and weakness. Before the complaint can fully form, patience steps in. Patience is personified here, becoming a voice of wisdom that interrupts the speaker's murmurings, calming him down and providing clarity in his moment of doubt. Line 9, that murmur, soon replies, God doth not need. Patience responds to the speaker's doubts by reassuring him that God does not need human work or effort to fulfill his divine plan. This line highlights that God's power and purpose are independent of human actions. The speaker learns that God is not dependent on his labor or abilities, whether he is blind or not. Line 10, either man's work or his own gifts, who best? God doesn't require man's work, nor does he depend on the gifts he has given to individuals. What truly matters, patience tells the speaker, is how individuals bear their burdens. Those who endure their hardships with grace and humility, bear his mild yoke, are the ones who serve God best. This shifts the focus from outward action to inward acceptance and faithfulness. Line 11, bear his mild yoke, they serve him best. His state. This line expands on the idea of bearing God's mild yoke, which symbolizes the acceptance of life's challenges as part of divine will. Those who carry this burden without complaint or resistance serve God in the most meaningful way. The mild yoke suggests that, though life's burdens can be heavy, they are manageable with patience and faith. Line 12, is kingly. Thousands at his bidding speed. God's state is kingly, implying that he is supreme, majestic, and all-powerful. He commands thousands of beings, likely angels or celestial entities, who rush to do his bidding without rest. These beings represent active service to God, highlighting that there are countless servants fulfilling divine duties across the world. Line 13, and post o'er land and ocean without rest. These servants of God are constantly moving, posting over land and sea, performing their tasks tirelessly. They are active, always on the move, obeying God's commands in every corner of the world. This line emphasizes the ceaseless activity of God's kingdom, where many are called to serve in various capacities. Line 14, they also serve who only stand and wait. The final line provides the resolution to the speaker's inner conflict. Even those who cannot actively perform labor, like Milton, who must stand and wait due to his blindness, also serve God. This line teaches that patience, acceptance, and faith are just as valuable forms of service as active labor. Milton finds peace in the realization that simply enduring his blindness with faithfulness is a meaningful way of serving God.
About the poet. John Milton was born on December 9, 1608, in London, England. He became one of the most significant figures in English literature, best known for his epic poem Paradise Lost. Milton was highly educated, attending St. Paul's School and later Christ's College, Cambridge, where he developed his passion for poetry, theology, and classical studies. His works reflect deep engagement with political, religious, and philosophical ideas, particularly his advocacy for personal and political freedom. Milton faced great personal challenges, including going blind in his 40s, which influenced some of his most profound works, such as Sonnet 19, When I Consider How My Light Is Spent. Despite his disability, Milton continued writing through the help of amanuenses. His poetry, prose, and pamphlets had a lasting impact on English literature, shaping themes of free will, redemption, and human suffering. He died on November 8, 1674, leaving behind an enduring literary legacy.
Hope we summarized it fully and you liked it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that we are motivated to create more videos.